All right, welcome back again. This is DM Don going through as quickly as we can on building your character, understanding some of the high level concepts. So we've kind of talked about your background level, getting your starting ranks and your starting proficiencies, and what to expect. Getting your ranks at in level 1 in your class. And we're going to cover the classes probably next. But I want to go ahead and hit races because you're going to be picking a race and a class, obviously. So there's a dozen races available, and I'm not going to go through and share the list right now, but just wanted to mention that there are individual race abilities that you do track on the character sheet. So when you're going through, each race has some basic information about the biology of the race and the society of that, and just some things to know about how to role play them. Every race has a section on I'm playing a X, what do I need to know, which provides you like role playing concepts, because the way I'm presenting this is the races are not just reskinned humans. I hope that each of them feels unique, and I know a lot of games attempt to do that, but then I just always kind of feel like they're just reskinned humans. So each of them has this role playing section. And then many of the races have like attitudes towards other races. And then there are also racial traits that you're going to be recording on the character sheet. So every race has a set of some unique traits that give them bonuses. So let's just say if you're picking a Foresti, which are these like the cat people, which are these feline humanoids, these lithe, they have tails and ears, and they're kind of interesting. And they come from the Varnathi Wilds, which is in this land called Hyperia, far across the sea from where the game is starting. So they have claws, and they can use those as in lieu of a punch attack. So they can do some base claw damage. It's not a lot of damage because they're not these huge raking claws, but they do have natural claws. They get bonuses. They get a bonus edge to climbing wood surfaces because they're good climbers. Now you still have to buy ranks in climbing, but they do just get this bonus edge for climbing. And they also get a bonus edge for acrobatic maneuvers because they have, they're really great reflexes. So they also have the warrior lineage, which when they use spears, javelins, and atlatls, they get an increased damage range on those. They've trained growing up on how to use these a little bit more effectively than other people, and they just do a little bit more damage with them. So that's what makes them unique as far as like some traits that you're going to be recording on the character sheet. But just going into it, don't make any assumptions about the races in here and what you're used to seeing in other D20 games, because a lot of these are different, particularly dwarves. They're extremely different from what you would expect. The dwarves in Adventure's Edge are way more like a combination of halflings with a little bit of gnome infusion. Like they're not your standard Tolkien dwarves. So go through, once you have your idea of what you want, read through the full description and make sure it actually fits what you're looking for. So that's kind of like the high level races. I'm not going to go through each one. I think they're cool. I think there's a diverse group. The one other part I want to mention, though, is that there is a racial height chart at the top of the race section. So you don't get to pick your height because the height actually gives you a slight advantage or slight disadvantage because your height modifies your starting strength and dex. So there is a D20 chart there. You're going to make a roll to determine what your character's height is. The chart doesn't determine what your weight is. You can weigh whatever you want. That actually doesn't have a mathematical advantage or disadvantage. So just you'll roll on the chart, record your height, and then there's another corresponding chart that tells you what your starting strength and what your starting dex is, because you cannot double or half your starting strength or dex. So just say, for whatever reason, maybe you're playing a fairy and fairies are really tiny. They're like a foot tall, right? So if you think about that, the fairy starting strength, I think, is like a 4. So whenever you and you can maybe be up to 14 inches tall, I think is like the max fairy height if you roll a 20 on the height chart. So when you're adding or increasing or decreasing your stats, it is restricted based upon your starting number. So if you start at a 4 strength, you can only get to an 8. Like that's going to be the hard cap. So you can't play a fairy and then have some weird power fantasy of like, oh, I'm going to get an 18 strength on my fairy. That's not how that works. They're only ever, this tall, and they can only ever be so strong. So just keep that in mind. All right, that's what I just wanted to mention there. And then let me jump on to classes. All right, thanks.